Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Notes on a Nervous Planet by Matt Haig. I think that's how you say it. Matt Haig? What to say about it? Notes on a Nervous Planet is essentially a type of self-help book to cope with the anxiety brought about by our ever-changing modern world. This is definitely something that's geared towards the world changing in the information and internet age. So in particular, it deals with the way that technologies such as smartphones, internet, and social media affect our well-being, both personally as well as generally. Haig weaves his own experiences with depression, anxiety, and panic disorder throughout his thoughts and musings on how our modern surroundings can exacerbate or even cause these types of problems. Because he includes his own experiences with depression and anxiety, I think that makes this a little bit more approachable, and it also makes his advice that much more relevant because he has and is currently dealing with a lot of issues as a result of this. I sort of don't know how to feel about this book. On the one hand, I think that this can be hugely beneficial for helping people unplug from the anxiety-inducing world that we inhabit. But on the other hand, I do think that this is a little bit scattered and haphazard in its layout. It felt a little bit like something written by someone whose attention span has been greatly affected by the internet age. So it seemed a little bit as though he was unable to focus too long on a single topic, and it sort of felt like having a bunch of tabs open in your browser. It's a little bit ironic to me that this book seems to have been written with such short attention span, because one of the things that is addressed by Haig in this book is how our focus has essentially deteriorated from our hyperconnectedness and reliance on the internet. And he specifically talks about this on pages 148 to 149. He references neuroscientist Daniel Levitin, who says that the effects of chronic internet multitasking create a sort of dopamine reward cycle for losing focus. So essentially, you're getting reward every time you click off of one of the tasks you're doing. Obviously, it causes you to lose focus, but this can actually even increase stress and lower IQ because you are just unable to focus on things for so long. Moving on from that, I do find that Haig has some pages of really incredible advice and honest moments of brilliance sprinkled among what I can only describe as chaotic book filler. There is a lot of not just filler, but unnecessary repetition, and personally, I believe this book could have been a lot more effective if it were essentially cut in half. It simply just needed to be edited down more. There are so many sections that feel like they are straight up repeating something that was already said earlier. And to me, that redundancy does not work with this topic and it does not work with this format. So I really would have liked to see somebody cut this down a little bit more for him and really reshape it a little. Some of my favorite parts included his observations on how the internet or the information age has changed how we interact, because we can easily surround ourselves with people who have the same ideologies, which is just really good confirmation for our pre-existing belief systems. This can be good because it can help you find friends and like-minded people, but this can also be really bad because it can reinforce extreme ideologies and reinforce even like false information. So I think that when we are only surrounding ourselves with people that have the same ideas and beliefs, we're not ever going to question those ideas or beliefs. He actually discusses this in multiple sections, as well as a lot of other ways that the information age has affected society. Another observation that I feel is super relevant occurs on pages 224 to 227 about how we have changed the way that we approach work. I live in Silicon Valley, So I see this a lot, where the line between work and home and work and everything else is, if it exists, it's very blurry. I really do think that the idea of work versus home, or your work life versus your free time, has become so infringed upon because we're always connected. So people are always with their phone. If they're not with their phone, they probably have a smartwatch. If they don't have a smartwatch, they probably even get notifications on like their TV or on their computer. It really is just never ending. I do agree with him though. I think ultimately this model probably leads to less productivity and higher rates of burnout. For the more personal advice sections, some were really redundant again, but they also contained some really helpful reminders in my opinion, and a lot of these showed up in like a list format. So one of these is called How to Own a Smartphone and Still Be a Functioning Human Being, and it has a lot of reminders of just not to be over dependent on it. And another really good one was Ways to Keep Up with the News and Not Lose Your Mind, which I think is one in particular that I need to listen to. I think that How to Own a Smartphone and Still Be a Functioning Human Being is perhaps the single best list of advice in the entire book, especially the reminder that it is okay for you to be unavailable sometimes. This goes a little bit back to the work thing as well, but we need to draw our own lines of just saying, hey, it's okay for me to be unavailable for an hour or two, especially during like my free time. It's okay for me to plug in my phone and leave it at home for walking my dog, because realistically, I don't need it for that task and it might just take me away from it. So I really liked that advice because I think that as great as smartphones can be in a lot of ways, there's so many benefits. We just have to remember to leave them behind sometimes. I will say I have a little bit of a complaint with the advice in this book. As well-intentioned as it is and as helpful as I think it is, it just isn't accessible for all people. The idea of unplugging periodically, eating healthily, having meditative nature walks every day, of course these are beneficial, but I also think it's a really privileged position to be in to suggest that people can just do all of these things, because obviously a lot of people don't have access to nutritious food all the time. A lot of people don't have access to green spaces on a regular basis. So I do think that as good as this advice is, he's coming at it from a position of somebody who clearly has easy access to these things. So I do think it's important to be mindful that as good as this advice is, it's okay if you can't follow all of it, because realistically, most people can't follow all of it. I think I would give this about a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed it. I felt that the advice I did get was really helpful, but it's not advice that realistically all people can necessarily follow with the same ease. And it's also a little bit repetitive. So for that, I think I'm going to knock off some points. It's complicated for me because in some ways I feel like it's a must read, and in other ways I feel like there's so much dead book filler that I don't know. I don't know what to say. I would say maybe read it, but it's okay to just like skip whole sections and just take what you think is helpful from it. Yeah, I think I would recommend it, but I would just say it's okay to skip around or to even just straight up skip large sections. If any of you have read this, let me know what your thoughts were. Do you agree? Do you disagree? That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you later.